Welcome, 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 welcome to another pop-up live stream art studio over here on the Living Room Community Art Studio's Facebook page. Thank you everyone for joining us today. If you are tuning in, say hi, give me a little wave via the chat so I can know you're there. Of course, if you prefer to just be quiet, hey, Annie, welcome. Bridget, B. It's going, guys. Yeah, it's interesting. It's been an interesting day. I feel like there's been a lot of interesting sort of pushes to distract ourselves and to be away from things and to just think positive. And actually, I find that it's actually really healthy for me to actually be. Oh, Ashley, hello, welcome to this Living Room Art Studio. Welcome to the pop-up art studio. You're totally welcome here. Yes, that pressure to be positive and forget. You know what? Sometimes I don't need to be distracted. It's helpful for me to be present in this, whatever this might be. Today, at least in Oshawa, kind of well, it's hot, it's humid, it's a bit overcast by the looks of it. Just looking out my window here. Yeah, it's interesting. It's an interesting day, feeling the pressure a little bit. Kind of the internal pressure as well as the external pressure. Ashley. So Ashley's asking, when do you think you'll open up? So this is a complicated question. And until more folks join us, you know what? I might as well chat about that. I think we will open up the studio when we feel that everyone can be there safely, which includes, of course, our community. It includes the coordinators, the volunteers, our placement students. If you've been to the living room space at 149 Simcoe Street South, you know that it's pretty small. One of the reasons why it's so interesting and fun to be there is because people are so close. So we haven't quite wrapped our heads around how we would open up the studio again with social distancing and hygiene practices, like sanitizing things properly in place. And if we were able to open up the studio with one person at a table, we bring you a specific set of art supplies that you can use. We don't know if the experience would be the same. So what we're hoping is that we can cultivate more of this online community, ways that we can connect and create together. And perhaps as things, as people become, as well, you know what? As we discover ways to work with the virus safely and manageably, perhaps you'll be seeing us do more events in the community, outside events, maybe, where we can manage social distancing appropriately. I mean, things to remember about the studio space right now. Yeah, and that Annie has a really good point about the studio space. People touch everything when we're there, and that's part of, for me anyways, it's part of the pleasure, the sharing economy, how we connect with one another, person to person, but also through the materials that we use and we share. And there's been a few new guidelines that have come out. I know I'm going on a bit of a rant here, folks, but there have been some new guidelines released about best practices involving art materials. And it looks like, until there is a vaccine or a treatment that works really, really well, we would have to break up all the art supplies into 3 categories. Art supplies that are single use, which means at the end of them being used, they are either thrown away or given to the person who is using them. That we provide art kits for people that they hold on to and keep themselves and bring back to the studio whenever they come. And there are a limited range of materials that we are able to sanitize. But it would still mean kind of restricting the movement in the space so that we were being much more prescriptive with what we were giving you, a much more limited supply, and kind of us bringing it to you and then removing it when you were done to clean it up and sanitize it. And of course, everyone wearing masks and everything. Oh yeah, and I know I'm getting really intense here about it, Ashley, just because I've been, well, I'll be honest, it's been on my mind, trying to figure out ways that we can open the space and bring our community back together again in one way or another. I miss it too, Ashley. I miss it too. I miss, well, what would it be on a day like today? If we were all at the living room today, the fans would be up, It would be a studio full of fans, circulating as much air as we could. The front door would be open. The back door would be open. There might be a few wasps who decided to visit from time to time. Yep, the coffee would be on. I think a few of us might be sneaking out to Brew Wizards here or there to get some iced coffee. We'd have a pitcher of water set up at the back, maybe flavored with some lemon slices or some mint leaves. We'd kind of be sweating it out. I remember sometimes it could get super sweaty in that space, even with the fans on. So I think we'd be spacing ourselves out, going for lots of walks, getting lots of fresh air. Kevin might be outside doing some chalk art on the sidewalk. This time of year was always a really exciting time of year because the sidewalks in front of the studio would become so colorful again. So, Kevin, wherever you are, I hope you have some sidewalk chalk. I hope you are still making art. So that's a long, long answer to your question, Ashley, but I've been thinking about it a lot, trying to figure out how to work it. When we can, we will open up the studio again. And if something happens and, perhaps we'll be here for a long time, perhaps, until the vaccine is shared, it might be a little more like this. It might be a little scattered with how we create, a little distanced how we create. And we'll find a way to work with that. We'll just find a way. That's all we can do. We can move with what's moving. I've really been trying to think about what I can do versus what I can't do. Because sometimes when I think about what I can't do, it feels frustrating and I begin feeling stuck. When I think about, okay, what are my options? What can I do during this time? Things open up again and I feel free. And that's such an important way to feel. And sneaking out to Brew Wizards for some iced coffee. Oh, man, I've got to go. I'm out of coffee. And, like all of us, we're limiting our errand runs and things like that. I got to get out to Brew Wizards and restock on my coffee. I tell you, you don't know how much you appreciate something until you don't have it at your fingertips whenever you want it anymore. I'm coming out of this period truly feeling appreciative of all the people in my life, close and, wherever you might be, near and far, close acquaintances, or just the characters I see on the street, the places I used to go and love going. Oh, I miss them. I miss them, but they're still there. Just got to plan it a little bit more. So everyone who might be joining, hearing me ramble about the studio and what's up with opening the space again, we're still working on it. I don't think it's going to happen for a little while. We will be providing more content for you online, and we have it's that time of year again. We have a whole bunch of students returning for their second semester with us of their placement. Ooh, virtual paint nights, Ashley. All right, that's a great idea. Let's see what we can do. They'd have to be living room style virtual paint nights. A little bit weird, a little bit fun, a little bit imperfect. Yeah, we'll figure it out. Another thing to mix into the pot. In the meantime, Georgia Fullerton, who is an extraordinary artist, she's also an expressive arts therapist, but just an amazing all-around human being. She is doing paint-alongs, paint groups, maybe not always at night, but if you go to, what is her page called? It might be, if you visit Georgia Fullerton on Facebook, Fullerton, you'll be able to find links to her painting site. And she's been offering virtual paint nights this whole time. So shout out to Georgia there. You're amazing. For folks who are joining us, let's see what I can do here. I want to welcome everyone. Thank you for listening to me ramble. Just like you were coming into the studio, I want to welcome everyone and remind them that this is a safe space. And what we mean when we talk about safety, we mean accountability, really. We're asking you to be supportive of yourself and others. Chances are, if you're supporting it yourself, you will be supportive of others too. It starts with you. It's really easy to be nice to other people. Hard to be compassionate with ourselves. Or at least that's what I find. And again, too, if folks have been using or drinking, I'll ask you to come back to the pop-up studio on another day when you haven't been. There's no judgment about that. No judgment at all. For us, it's just important to know that we can communicate effectively with one another. And sometimes when we're in a slightly altered state due to substances, it's difficult to connect in an authentic way. And there are folks who are dropping in, whether they're participating by chatting, or just listening and making art at home, or perhaps doing other things. This can be a space of recovery for them, and harm reduction too, so we want to be mindful of that. It's a pretty precious and awesome thing. Last thing, most important thing. If anyone out there, if you're struggling today, if you need to take a break, you can. Law of 2 feet apply. Take care of yourself. You don't need to stay for the whole time. You can drop in and out of this for 5 minutes, few minutes. You can stay the whole time if you like and make art with me. But if anything happens here that makes you feel uncomfortable, makes you feel weird or awkward, can you let me know? I know it might be difficult in the chat, but we've got a lot of amazing supportive people who are chatting and taking in those conversations on the side. So even if I miss it, someone might be able to help you, like Bea or Annie. Some amazing supports we have out there in the community. And if you want me to, I can have the awkward conversations for you. I love leaning into the awkward. It's one of my special skills, if you couldn't tell that already. And perhaps I might be able to have that conversation on your behalf and let someone know the impact that they're having on you. Because most times, people don't mean to cause offense. We just don't often recognize that, well, how powerful our words or our actions or our behaviors can be. And sometimes the thing we're trying to accomplish by doing the thing or saying the thing is actually having the opposite effect of that which we want. So just by taking a moment to check in and let someone know that what they're doing is having an impact on you that isn't positive, it can be pretty powerful. It can be a moment, although a little bit awkward, helps you move forward, helps that person move forward in a really amazing way. Because humaning is a creative endeavor as well. One that we're not really taught about, we're just expected to learn about it as we go along. But that's one thing you can do, by listening to what you're feeling, by paying attention to what you're feeling and recognizing what feels right for you and what doesn't feel right. And again, just that thing I was mentioning before, we can't always do everything about stuff that's happening in the world, but we can, like what we can take action on, what we can make a change with. Why don't we try it? Why don't we try it and see what happens? Yeah, the awkward conversations are the best. And I'm sure if anyone out there has been doing the Zoom thing, you've probably had your fill of slightly awkward conversations. Not necessarily for the same reasons, but the nature of communication has shifted slightly. I'm fascinated by that. All right, folks, what am I doing here? Oh, and I was mentioning before, we have a whole bunch of, returning placement students coming back to the studio. We also have some new students that we've inherited from Durham Mental Health Services, which is amazing. Oh, mandalas. I'm taking a peek at the chat over here, and Ashley's been coloring mandalas with neon gel pens, and you put them under your black light and they glow. Or they just sort of radiate with that beautiful color. Color. I am grateful for the color that we're finally seeing in nature with the trees bursting out. It feels like over 1 week everything has exploded in color. I'm loving that. Just returning to the students. I think I'll be introducing them to everyone via Facebook tomorrow. And they've got a lot of wonderful ideas as well. So they're going to be taking on some new activities to engage with folks on Facebook. So I think I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be really fun. Now back to where I'm feeling. Speaking of awkward, I've decided to start today by painting or drawing with my non-dominant hand, which is just a way of saying I'm right-handed, and I wanted to see what happened today if I used my left hand to draw. I think sometimes when I'm feeling Mm. A little wonky, or perhaps maybe even a little uptight, like I'm trapped or caught in something. I don't know why, and I'm sure other therapists out there you can speak to this much more eloquently than I can. But when I work with my non-dominant hand, it kind of frees something up in me. Just focuses me in a slightly different way. And if folks, if you're working on stuff out there that you'd like to share, please feel free. Nice. So B's going to be working on painting some stones. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And Ashley's got some watercolor pencil crayons. I'm not too sure how to use them. I can relate there. I'm the queen of not knowing how to use any of the wonderful materials I have on hand. May I recommend just jumping in and experimenting? I think that's also another way of freeing ourselves up from expectations and creating those opportunities for really beautiful discoveries about the mediums, but also about ourselves and how we like to work. Decided to use a marker pen today that wasn't waterproof as well, so I'm going to be playing with. And colors bleed with one another. And then I might. Oh, Ashley, you're left-handed. Yes. Well, maybe it is for you. How do you find if you are naturally a left-handed person? Now, this might not be the case for you, but I know a lot of lefties who, over time, they're basically you can do as much as you do with your left hand with your right hand as well. Whether that's because of a world that forces you to be like everyone else, the assumption that everyone is right-handed. But then some left-handed people are just, nope, that's it, left-handed, and that's that. I know historically it's been really hard for folks who are left-handed. I have family members who had really rough times in school. I think rough is an understatement, actually, because they were judged for being left-handed. We're a very peculiar species, aren't we? Very, very peculiar. I'm going to keep on adding some color to this and playing. Yeah, it can be the adjustment there. Things are made for a right-handed world, aren't they? Things you don't consider, the things you do not encounter unless you have to, or until you know someone who's impacted by them. That's a huge piece of privilege, right? Just not being exposed to things when you don't know that anything other is out there. Of course you assume that the world is for you, that everything is like this. That's why experiencing different things, trying different things, introducing a little bit of rupture into our lives can be so, so, so helpful, so liberating, so helpful. I also like this because it's reminding me, I guess this what it was like to paint as a child? Is not having that kind of control. The lefty's ability to smudge things. I have my partner is left-handed, and sometimes when he writes with a pen, if the ink isn't dry, there will be a smudge going across the page. Again, just that expectation of the way we work on paper. Mm. And to learning how to do these things in a world that's set up for right-handed people. It's a fascinating thing, right? You don't know until you have to know, until you care about someone enough to put yourself in their shoes. Yeah, the left-handed, the evil, the idea that left was somehow evil, somehow insincere, somehow connected to the wrongness within humanity is just how strange. We are just strange creatures. We are just strange creatures. Hello, Shelley. So nice to see you. Welcome. Welcome today. Oh, I had internet issues. It's okay. You're here now. That's all right. I'm not the boss of you. You don't have to tune in exactly at 2 p.m. That's all good. Whatever works for you. But I'm sorry you had internet issues. That can be particularly frustrating now, when so many of us are looking to connect this way. And for folks who might be tuning in now, welcome. Just want to remind you that you are welcome to join the chat underneath the video. You are so welcome. If you feel like you'd like to say hello, or let us know what you're working on, ask questions. Maybe there's something you're feeling that you want to put out there. Maybe we can help by making art about it for you, responding in that creative way. Feel free. But if you don't feel like making yourself visible, and it's just nice to have this on in the background while you do something, that's okay too. And if you're making art and listening to this or watching it, that's great. But there's lots of other things that we do that are creative. Taking care of ourselves, taking care of our places that we live. If you want to listen while you're running errands, doing schoolwork, that's okay too. Hello, Kiri. Kiri, so glad you said hello. It's so good to see your voice. Isn't that interesting? So great to see your voice. How have you been doing? I think for some folks, they don't, if you're an introvert, if you're like someone like, well, like myself, I don't know where I consider, who was I talking to? I was talking to Nye about this a few weeks ago. Introvert, extrovert, ambivert, they're all just names, when really names for, like, to help define things, but how we move through the world and how we engage is kind of indefinable. We can be everything and anything at any given time. But for those of us who feel comfortable living on the quieter side, it can be difficult to make ourselves visible sometimes, especially if we haven't done it for a while. Sometimes when I'm at the studio, I feel like everything's out in the open, right? I'm very public, I'm very chatty, I'm available to everyone. But I'm not naturally like that, which I always find it's interesting to reflect upon. So when I become comfortable not connecting on a regular basis or being as out there, I kind of got to warm back up into connecting with people again. And Ashley, do not worry. I saw you feel like you're spamming the chat. No. Don't worry. People will chat or join in whenever they feel like it. It's okay. It's okay. Yeah, but finding new ways to make ourselves visible that feel good, that's an interesting area to be in. I don't know if that's what you're experiencing, Kiri, but sometimes I want to be known, but I don't want to be seen. And it's not necessarily because of anything bad. Sometimes I feel totally fine just being in the background. As long as it feels right to you, that's what matters, right? So again, when there's chat going on, I may not see everything. I may not be able to greet everyone as they come on. Sometimes, oh, look at that. I switched back to my right hand. No, Mary, I want you to keep working with your left hand. Please feel free to say hello to one another as well. If you're seeing people join in or say hello and I miss them, just like at the studio, say hi. Interesting. But working with the left hand is just wow. Wow. Well, that's good to hear, Shelley. When the studio opens up again, we look forward to seeing you there. And again, it's you do you. Take your time. Truth is, Shelley, you're a part of the community. You're here. You're present with us. That's it. You don't need to prove anything to anybody. It's about feeling good and the choices you make for you. I'm not the boss of you. B. All right, B. Let's see. I'm sorry to hear you've been having a stressful week. Oh yeah, you're moving into your new place. And a new roommate. Whew. Well, I'm glad that you can find some relaxation here. All of those things. Moving is one of the most stressful things that can happen to a person. That is absolutely true. I know you've got a great support system, but if there's any way that I can help, if there's anyone here, maybe, if you want to reach out for anything from anyone, feel free. I think that for any of us who have moved, we know, we're familiar with that feeling. It may not be the exact same situation, but it is weird, especially during the pandemic times. It must be especially odd not being able to reach out and have the same kind of help in a way that you normally have it. Annie, good question. Annie's just asking, how does it feel to use my non-dominant hand, my left hand to paint, and how does it make my brain feel? I don't know how exactly it's making my brain feel, but it's definitely drawing extra energy. Does that make sense? I feel like using my left hand instead of my right it's like having another conversation whispering in my other ear. And I'm trying to pay attention to all the conversations, and my left hand is saying, come on, just pay more attention to me. Does that make sense? And my inner critic, it's fascinating, my inner critic, I was expecting to be really loud while I was doing this and telling me that it sucks, it's horrible, blah, 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 blah. Like, I have many critics, for those of you who know me, I have so many, the choir. I'm not joking when I talk about the choir. And sometimes they all start chatting or singing at once, and it can be overwhelming. But interestingly, doing this, at least for me, has helped quiet that inner critic. Perhaps it's given me permission to just do whatever I need to do. Perhaps it assumed that it would be bad. I don't know. But it's handed over a bit of control to, I don't know, it's given me permission to not have as much control as I like usually to have. When I'm all crunchy. And Chris and Deborah, hello to the people I'm not seeing. Come on, watching to the stream. Welcome. Just chatting about playing with experimenting, making art with your non-dominant hand and the way it makes me feel. It's fascinating. Fascinating. Welcome. I hope you guys are doing okay out there. Yeah, interesting. Annie, Annie just coming back to the interesting separation, the separate communication between maybe the two parts of my brain, the two parts of my body. It's one way to get around that. I know sometimes it's really interesting to take the, like, to scribble or to have a good, like, just to let it, just really let loose of the, the control, to scribble or create images, and afterwards to take a step back once you've had some time and look at them and see what emerges. I think there are some beliefs out there that when working with non-dominant hand art, that you can begin communicating with yourself in a different way. So things perhaps that you haven't wanted to think about or deal with, or things that you're just too busy to pay attention to, begin to emerge. Messages, little messages for yourself. And Ashley asking about Taskmaster. Yes, the Taskmaster fundraiser. Last year, every year we try to have a really big June fundraiser for the studio. This year, we're not going to be able to hold that event, obviously, which is part saddened, part frustrated, but also it's just the way it is, so it's no one's fault. Last year, we were inspired by this really fun British TV series created by Alex Horn and Greg Davies called Taskmaster, where we issued creative challenges to artists, 5 artists, and they each had the same challenge, and they each had to meet it in their own unique way. And they were very silly and very fun. And it was such a fun event. There was so much laughter. It was a great night, and Trent, of course, donated the use of their space to us, so that was also lovely. It's interesting to think about because things have changed. Who was it? I think it was Carlos who was talking about. Carlos was saying that every 5 years, at least, he finds for himself that things kind of shake up a little bit and reset in some way or other. And looking back over it's been about 6 years since the studio has been opened, 7 years since the studio project has existed, period. I think it was about time for a shake-up. And boy, did we get one. It's good, though. I think it's an opportunity to reset and examine. Not examine, that sounds like homework, and I don't like homework. But it gives us an opportunity to dream and to look at what we do want. And we might, on the day we would normally hold a fundraiser, we might put something out there to remind everyone of last year, to celebrate that time and everyone's support of the studio project. But I think in the months to come, we'll find some other fun ways to fundraise for the studio project as well. Because even though we're not using the space, we're still paying rent at the space. And yeah, that's an interesting situation. But we'll figure it out. So B, I'm coming back into the chat now. Feeling guilty for asking people for help. So you think you need to do some awkward bad art with maybe with your left hand. Oh, B, what do we think, guys? What do we think about asking for help? That's a tough one, huh? I struggle with that, absolutely. The asking for help. The receiving help. I mean, there's a lot in there. For me, it's feeling somehow like asking for help might signify some kind of failure on my part, that I wasn't able to do everything in the way I wanted to do it. Or perhaps I feel like needy, like I'm reaching out to the same people again and again and again. And I feel that. I feel that with all my volunteers, with my students, with my coordinators. Sometimes it's a difficult one to check. But you've just reminded me that maybe I'll check in with people about that. Because I tend to think that just might be my inner critics acting up again. And maybe not representative of the truth, right? I try and let people know, at least myself, that I'll let them know, like I try to be honest if I can't do something or be something for someone in the way that they need me or would like me at that moment in time. It's not an indication of how I feel about them or about the request. I think it has more to do with needing to take care of myself. So again, you never know until you ask. Asking for help, I think, is one of the things that makes us most human. Perhaps? I don't know. Ah, Suzanne. Oh, interesting. So Suzanne's making a movie recommendation or a TV recommendation. I'm not sure. Suzanne saying, if you get a chance, watch Tiny Little Fires Everywhere. Tiny Little Fires Everywhere. Interesting, interesting, interesting. Okay, all right, I'll check it out. Oh, no, left hand. Always looking for a good movie. Yeah, I hate asking. So Annie has a good point here. It's hard to ask for help, but please do. Part of our health and the good stuff of life, it is. And Annie sucks at it. That's an interesting thing. We can say it's so easy to encourage everyone else to ask for help. It's so easy to say, oh yeah, no, ask. And then so difficult to do it ourselves. Yeah. And B, I wonder if that's part of it. B's recognizing that, at least on their part, I'm so used to being the one who's offering the help. And yes, it's related to that aggressive self-sufficiently and perfectionism in me. And the feeling of the worry of, I see underneath there, Suzanne recognizing disappointment, a sign of weakness, don't want to be a burden. And I think there's something else there. Greedy or needy, all those things. Isn't it interesting? All those negative connotations. Where did that come from? Where did that come from? I don't think it came from within each of us. This seems like one of those narratives that's been hanging around, perhaps even inside ourselves, but it perhaps came from somewhere else. That sense of, I think for me, again, this is maybe like a colonizer kind of thing, that white cisgendered settler thing. A lot of the messages I received growing up were about being, you were supposed to work hard to get to a point where you can help other people. And that was a sign of strength and your belief and your profound faith, and that you would be rewarded to getting to that place. And no one ever really talked about that there's no arrival point, first of all. There's never a point where we get there. I'm an excellent, awesome, all perfect human being. No. That doesn't happen. We build relationships with ourselves. And that sense of being that you have to be somehow better than to help someone else. And if I need help, what does that say about all other parts of my life? Can I be of help? Can I be of assistance? If I'm hurting, how can I help someone else who is hurting? And those are really important questions to ask, but one doesn't exclude the other. Does that make sense? Yeah? The greedy or needy thing, Shelley, is a really interesting one too. We have, I think, along the way picked up. And again, guys, chime in. I'm just speaking for myself. But I don't know everything. I hardly know. I just know what I know, and I don't know what I don't know. So join in. Jana or Jana? Hello, welcome. Coming at an interesting point in the conversation, talking about asking for help and all the negative content, like the negative kind of inherited things we've absorbed from our cultures or our families, or who knows where they come from. But the idea that if you can't help yourself, there's something lazy or slovenly about you, or helpless. And that's an interesting piece for me. And I was talking to a lovely student today, and they took the time to ask how I was doing, which is beautiful, right? It's oh, look at that. I switched back. Oh, no right hand. No. We're seeing this through. We are. Talking to a lovely student who asked me how I was doing. And I realized I have another thing, that being asked how I'm doing, I will always try to answer honestly. And knowing that sometimes people don't want to hear the truth. But I recognized as well that I have to own that to a certain extent, because there's nothing wrong with what I feel. And just because I feel I might be struggling, I might be in pain, I might be anxious, but it doesn't always mean that I'm in need of assistance. Does that make sense? There are times when we each of us need to reach out and ask for help. I think it's equally important to recognize that sometimes it's okay to feel those things. Sometimes it's okay to feel down, to feel the pain. And perhaps important to have other people witness it and not try to fix it or change it, but just to be present with it, so that we can arrive at the point where we can recognize that we want help, rather than being afraid that everyone will assume we need help, which ties into all those other difficult things. It's a fascinating area, folks. It's a really interesting area. And hold space, if nothing else. Yeah, holding space is an interesting term. And Suzanne says, I think it stems from the idea that if you work hard enough, everything will be perfect. And when it's not, so others sometimes view you as not trying hard enough. Yeah, that is a really gross thought that has crept through our culture for, I think, many generations. The sense of value being tied to productivity and independence, and that spirit of going it alone and taking on and dealing with all your own issues and problems. It's a very oh, I almost dipped my paintbrush in my water. Sorry, guys. Oh, it's going to happen one of these days. Yeah, the idea that we're supposed to be these creatures who can do everything and it all. Like, I think it comes from, it has roots in a lot of different places, but they're not necessarily good ones. And they're not necessarily ones that, we can go forward. We can just pull those weeds right out. So I learned from hard personal experience that asking for help meant that I was less than in the eyes of my caretakers. And it meant that instead of getting help, I got sneers and derision. Got a lot of unlearning to do. Yeah. Again, these things, the fact that we have so many doubts and anxieties around asking for help, it's not necessarily at least I hope not, it doesn't signal that, what am I trying to say, folks? I guess what I'm trying to acknowledge is that there's a kind of privilege those of us, so some of us may have had by asking for help and always being responded to in a caring and compassionate way. And I think sometimes we throw around things a little too easily. Again, it's much simpler to say than to do. Just ask for help. But there are a lot of us out there who have not had positive experiences doing that. And for our own safety, we've had to pull back sometimes. Our own safety, our own kind of internal safety. And again, I think it all ties together, perhaps from the folks we were asking for help from. Their perception of us was that we should be able to figure it out on our own, or that what we wanted wasn't worth it, or perhaps it was wrong, or maybe we weren't believed. So a lot of stuff there. What does it come down to? I don't know. Perhaps taking the time to, and again, speaking for myself, opinions are my own. Taking time to feel what we're feeling and being patient enough and compassionate enough and interested in ourselves enough to track where it's coming from, perhaps, to say, why is that there? What caused that feeling? What can I do to shift it? What can I do to value my own voice and my own needs, and to know that it is okay to ask for help, to recognize that we may not always be able to get the help that we want when we want it, but just because the value comes in asking, naming, observing, noticing what we need, and being okay with the fact that it is something that we need, something that we want. Annie says, yeah, sounds like you're ringing some bells with Annie B. Annie was not believed. It has taken so long to believe and trust myself, still in the process. And that is okay. That is absolutely okay. I think for so many of us, that will be a lifelong process. And maybe there's a reason for that. Like maybe that's part of living, part of the journey we are on, undoing the things, challenging those inner critics, those voices that we've, heard for a long, long time. And knowing that it's okay to take the time we need to listen to ourselves, especially if no one else is listening or is able to listen at that moment. Knowing that there are people out there, that is, the times you asked for help and it wasn't offered or it wasn't given, they do not signify a lifetime of that same pattern happening again and again. No matter what, we're worth it. All of us here. Hello, Sarah Rose. Welcome. It's being able to ask for help is a beautiful thing. I mean, I think it starts with us, especially if it wasn't modeled for us or if it wasn't offered to us. Oftentimes we probably, if you're like me, coming from a family where there wasn't I didn't see that growing up personally. I didn't see that modeled for me. I didn't see people reaching out and asking for help in healthy ways. So we've got to recreate that for ourselves. And if you need or want to reach out for support, guys, this is an intense kind of conversation we're having, but a good one. And please reach out for those supports. There are so many different kinds. Again, it's asking for help in a different frame. But if this conversation is making you think of some things you haven't thought of for a long time, and you'd like to investigate them on a deeper level, it's worthwhile finding someone, dare I say a professional, to take these things to, so you can have a really honest conversation without fear of judgment, without fear of being told that you're less than for asking, for reaching out. We're curious creatures, right? Who would we be if we weren't curious? It's part of our nature. It's continuing to ask questions of ourselves and others. I believe that's part of who we are. And thank you, B, for reminding me to say hello. Hello to new folks who are watching. If you're tuning in now, I'd like to welcome you to the living room space, our virtual pop-up Art Hive here. And remind folks that this is your time. So if you'd like, you are welcome to join me in making art. I'm using my non-dominant hand to create something today. I might move on to some other pieces too, but that's where I'm at right now. You're welcome to make art with us. You're welcome to do your own thing. You're welcome to just listen, have us on in the background. You can chat, join the chat if you like. Make yourself visible in that way, or just quietly have us a part of your day. I honor your presence. I welcome you all the same. All the same. It's good to have you here. And I know you're there, even the folks who aren't saying anything. It's really quite a comfort when people listen. You don't have to chat all the time. You don't have to comment all the time. Hmm. So how is my brain feeling now? It's funny, there are things I'm doing in this piece that I would really love to be able to do in my other artworks. But I know if I tried, I would struggle to achieve the effect. I suppose this is one of the things, one of the reasons why some artists mix things up and try different techniques. Who was it who used, was it Matisse? Gauguin? I don't know, Matisse maybe, who tied their paintbrush onto the end of a very, very, very long kind of pole, like a broomstick. It would stand meters back and use it to paint. Perhaps it was just for this, just to return to that kind of free, uncontrolled space. Oh, well, thank you. Hello, Nikki. Welcome, Nikki. Oh, I look well rested? Well, I guess that's a good thing. Thank you. I have been making a concerted effort to take better care of myself in that way. To listen to my body and to use this time to integrate, to just find more stillness in my life. The thing I was craving before the pandemic, and now it is, well, in one way, it's been given. I'm not sure if anyone listened to the live stream Instagram chat we had with Cassandra Myers yesterday. Cassandra is, well, many things. Getting her master's in social work, but also is a spoken word artist and poet and soon to be published author. Just we were talking about the gifts that, like, the sort of light side of this very difficult time that the world is in right now. For those of us who are in a place of privilege where we can take advantage of the time, the stillness, the quiet to just do that self-care piece, really, to really dig into it, to do things that we haven't had a chance to do in a long, long, long time. Now, if you can, why not? Again, hitting that reset button, I was reminded of that phrase through Jeremy Smith, who's the artistic director of Driftwood Theatre Company, because obviously theatre companies have there's no theater happening this summer. That's something, right? Oh, I'm glad you liked it. Yeah, the Instagram live chats are I really enjoy them. And I am enjoying sharing, like shining a spotlight on other makers and creators out there in the community, like near and far, our kind of global community. I'm enjoying connecting with them and introducing them to other folks who may not have been familiar with their work before. And I don't know Cassandra that well. Cassandra was someone that Bea and I met at the last kind of public event that the LivingRoom did for International Women's Day. And they performed some pieces, some of their spoken word pieces. And it was just one of those moments where I was like, yep, this person is someone that we want to build relationships with. This is someone who I want to learn more about. So I got a chance to learn more about them yesterday, which was great. And this Tuesday, we'll be talking with Andres Musta, who is amazing. He's an amazing human being. Folks at the LivingRoom might know him because he often will paint on the mural walls, the graffiti walls that we have in back of the studio. And his work is interesting, it's intense, it's a little bit scary, usually political, but not always scary political. Sometimes it's joyfully political, celebrating the things that we should take time to honor and celebrate more often than we do. His tag is Zombie Art Squad, ZAS. So zombies are generally involved in his artwork some way or other, but he's done many other pieces as well. He's just an extraordinarily gifted artist and educator as well. So he's in an interesting time, teaching students from afar and adjusting to all of those things. I'm really looking forward to talking to him. But if you missed the live stream with Cassandra, it's still there. You can watch it. It's not. They now go direct to what they're calling Instagram TV. So they're a part of our feed. So you can click on it and you can watch the whole thing if you like. What was I talking about? Self-care, stillness, having the time to actually observe and see the world around us, listen to the world around us. Time to dream, to re-envision what it is we want. And that's one of the things Jeremy of Driftwood Theatre reminded me of, because he's looking at this summer where they had to cancel their whole season as an opportunity to reset. And he's someone who's been working so hard. I don't think he's had a summer off in perhaps over 20 years, because, when you're an artist, you hustle, right? You love it, but it's still a hustle. It's still a grind. So finding those moments where you can breathe and step back, they're precious. So I'm trying to use this time as a bit of that for myself and for the living room as well. I hope there's other folks out there doing the same. We can't pretend that this is a happy time, but there's happiness within the time. There can be both. There can be both. It's okay to feel good. I think that's worth repeating. It's okay to feel good, as much as it is okay not to feel good. Carlos. Hello, Carlos. Welcome. Oh, just catching up on what you've missed so much. Guys, has today been, I don't know. Oh. Shelley saying hello to new friends. That's so great to see, Shelley. Carlos, what have you missed? Okay, I'm painting with my non-dominant hand, giving my inner critics a break. We've talked about, wow, there's been so much. If there's anyone out there who wants to give a recap or a summarization, please feel free. All right, I'm going to stop working on this piece for now. Actually, yeah, I'm loving this piece. I do not usually create like this. Yeah, I love it. I think I've got to do more of this, guys. More left-hand work. Just turn off that part of my brain, that inner critic, and just give myself permission to let it out. Now what do I want to do? Well, I'll put that aside for now. Oh, getting back into it. Well, thank you, Carlos. It's colorful, that's for sure. It is colorful. Otherworldly. I'm getting kind of that vibe from it. Yeah. I hope, folks, if you're out there and you're creating, this time is also giving me a chance to take stock of everything and keep everything I'm working on. So I'm creating a little bit of a scrapbook for myself, actually. Oh, and hello, Lucy. Welcome to the Art Hive. And Shelley, yes, Shelley, I guess that is one of the themes of today. Visiting that place about how hard it is to ask for help and all the reasons why it might be so difficult and so challenging to ask for help, and where that comes from and how we can challenge it, how we can find peace with those moments where we ask for help and people aren't always able to provide it for us, because that's a very human thing, right? We don't have to judge ourselves or other people. Yeah, it's an interesting piece. And I suppose finding ways to be honest with one another, honest with ourselves, and find that place of consent. I think we issue that to other people. That's something to think about. I gotta form that sentence in my brain a little bit longer. What do we think? Is the judgment we place upon ourselves for asking for help somehow connected to consent and trust. Ah, Shelley. Been painting rocks and clay jars and drawing pictures for new friends. I've seen some of Shelley's pieces that she's been working on, and they've been delightful. If folks are out there and you want to send me images of what you're working on, please feel free. I know that the last few weeks, I don't know if Bea has time for it today, but um, we've created kind of an opportunity for people to share what they've been working on. You can do that in this thread if you like. You can share pictures of what you're working on. Or perhaps I'll make another little post to invite people to share what they're working on. And it's fantastic. It also allows me to kind of put together a little picture, a collage of the community's art. Because we are creating, we're not together, and we're not in the studio at 149, but that is not preventing us from voicing our experiences of self through what we're making. So I found this journal. I made it in one of the live streams, and then I promptly lost it, and I couldn't find it. And Sonia, hello Sonia. So some of these people are maybe names that I don't know or I haven't met yet in person, or maybe I'm having a difficult time connecting the name to the face. It's so great to have you here. Welcome to the Living Room Pop-Up Art Studio. Let's see. Yes, so please feel free to share if you're working on something. We'd love to see it. And you might feel comfortable sharing it in the comment thread so everyone can see it. If you prefer it to message to me privately through the studio, you can do that too. I found this journal, and now I'm trying to decide what I want to do with it. It's got a poem on the front, so maybe, maybe I'll continue. Maybe I'll make some poetry today in the last half hour. Is that okay? Yeah. Indeed, on that last thread of the conversation, acknowledging, that there's a lot of inner judgment around yourself for asking for help, even though you need it. Well, it's glad. So you like making the post and seeing what other folks have been up to during these chats. Oh, thank you, Bea. That's really great. And I will say to everyone who supports the studio and helps in their own way, if it ever becomes too much for you, please let me know. Do not hesitate to let me know. There are 1,000,001 ways of working with things. And if any of, it's the same for participating in these live streams or having them on, doing what you need to do. You are the boss of you. Take care of yourself. Do what you need to do to make this day or this afternoon the best possible one for yourself. Okay? And if that means turning off this live stream and doing something else, I'm okay with that. I'm just going to sit here and keep making anyways. And Shelley, so positive affirmations. What do you mean with positive affirmations? Do you mean that you find them helpful for yourself? Oops, hello scissors. I think self-care happens in a lot of different ways. And I think sometimes when we talk about challenging those inner critics and talking back to them, it can be super helpful to literally talk back to them. Which is why I never judge anyone for talking to themselves. Having the space to talk back, doing it out loud, I find, or at least for myself, can be so helpful. Again, just another way of making something feel real. Art is a great way of doing that, whether it's writing or music, collaging, journaling, knitting, crocheting, whatever it is you're doing, it's making something real. Sometimes when we keep things in our head, or just think about them in that place, they're not always real. It doesn't feel real. And sometimes that can be a helpful tool for someone. Or when it comes to challenging things or if something needs to be said, finding a way to say it and say it out loud can be really helpful. I guess that's what I'm saying. Oh, positive affirmations in the jars you're doing. Okay, so Shelley's making a jar that you fill with positive affirmations. That's beautiful. I love the idea of creating containers for things in our lives, like organizing ourselves internally somehow. Hmm. Asking for help. I feel that with someone was talking about the Taskmaster fundraiser before, uh, and I can relate to the asking for help on a large scale as well with the organization, with the living room, because in the world of philanthropy, oh my God, I said the word right. I never say that word correctly. Wow. Who knows if I'll be able to do it again, folks? But in philanthropy, the world of philanthropy, um, it's a very challenging world, and I didn't know anything about it until I opened up an art studio and a charity. Asking for help for yourself is one thing, and then asking for help for an organization became another. And the same issues are there, believe it or not. Sometimes I find it helpful to examine my own personal issues, seeking out and reaching out for help by looking at it through the lens of the organization, through the living room. Um, that sense of asking for help and people not recognizing the need or the value or the constant. I think there's something there too with proving ourselves, at least that sense for me, that sometimes asking for help is coupled with proving that I need it. That's a really complicated and interesting area to look at and examine too. It's highlighted through the living room for me. But it's a wonderful thing to catch and to challenge. That we have to justify, we somehow have to justify what we need. Yeah. B, when you move, you will have, a lot of cardboard to make art on, to make art with, make portfolios to hold your art, for sure. It's a great thing. Alternative surfaces, man. You may not have canvases at home, but I bet you got cardboard. So even if you have a cardboard box or a cereal box, all of those things can be used to make art. Make art to paint on as alternative surfaces, but even to make weaving looms. I saw in one of the other virtual art hives, someone was making those beautiful, I don't know what they're called, where you can like use paper fasteners or string to create movable creatures. So a bird, a little cardboard bird with wings that actually flapped. It's beautiful. Balcony art, making art on your balcony. The paint will dry really quickly, that's for sure. So I'm just doing some cut-up poetry here. If you're curious about what I'm doing it off to the side. I suppose I should bring it in. With one of the pages from a book that was upcycled. I've been hanging around. Just going to cut out some different phrases and cut out some words. I'm kind of dipping into that accidental art territory, turning off the inner critics. I'm just going to rearrange them until I find something that speaks to me. Just cutting them up into strips so it's easier, they're easier to manage, and I don't have to search the entire page for things. Makes it a little bit easier. Again, folks, if you're just tuning in now, thank you. Or if you're still here and listening or watching, thank you. It's good to have you here, part of our studio. Okay, one more. Let's see. Ooh. All right, here we go. Come, come, come. Let's throw these phrases here. Oh, I'm singing again. Sorry, folks. I'm glad you're looking forward to it, Shelley. I feel like that's another part of this, the journey that we're on, this time that we're in, is finding those beautiful little simple things that we can look forward to. If you like this Art Hive, if you like popping up and joining this experience, you might really, really enjoy the other virtual hives that are out there. I think there's a schedule. So there's so many art hives everywhere. We're just one. But someone has created a site where different art hives can come on and host different activities, I believe. So I've posted about it once before, but maybe I will take some time to share it again on our Facebook page to remind folks of different creative experiences you can join in, different communities that you can step into and make build relationships with. True, Carlos. Carlos says I should never apologize for singing, that I'm expressing my audio art. True, true, true. I know that other people are out there who sing while they're working or sort of hum to themselves, make little songs. If you're out there, sing along, folks. Sing along or sing out. Don't be shy. That is another thing I wanted to talk with my friend. So Lori Nancy, who was on the Instagram chats, I guess the week before last, she is a singer by training, but also I think one of those folks who are naturally gifted. And I've been meaning to connect with her to see, what we can do to bring more music into this experience. I think that would be nice. Oh yeah, Shelley, you moved back. That's right. So this one is helping you feel comfortable here. That's fantastic. And Kimberly Kim, well, thank you. Welcome. Welcome to the Living Room's pop-up art studio. And folks, if you don't like me saying your names, just let me know. Just say, hey, weird art lady. Just stop saying people's names. Let it happen in the chat. You don't have to say it out loud all the time. I have a tendency to blurt things out once I see them. If you've been at the studio, you can see that happening sometimes. I'll just keep saying the name of something that I'm looking for over and over again, like that helps. Although I have heard that I can. I've got quirks, folks. That's all I'm saying. As do we all. And I'm doing my best to own them, to own my weirdness. Because no one else is going to do it for me. Let's see what we've got going on here. If we don't, wanting our weirdness, it's an interesting thing, isn't it? I think for many of us, we might spend a large part of our lives figuring out how to blend in and how to be accepted by others. And then hopefully there comes a time where we realize we don't need to be accepted by anyone necessarily. And in that comes a lovely little gift of liberation where it's really about accepting ourselves. And then when we accept ourselves, other things begin to fall into place more naturally. It can be a beautiful thing. Yeah, being at the living room, sometimes Shelley was just saying she's been to the studio with a friend and some children, but never alone. And that's okay. I think the buddy system is a great one. when you're going to strange new places, having someone to walk alongside of you to help take that journey can be a beautiful thing. And that's one of the reasons why we have so many volunteers and students there as well, because no one should have to walk that journey alone. So having those, like having folks there, having, that's part of community, isn't it? It's not necessarily about being friends with everyone, but knowing that you're not alone, and knowing that someone else can see you, can hear you, can recognize your value. That is a really important thing. So being there, even if you're, if you do come alone, having someone else who might sit at the table with you to make art, unless that is something you don't want, that can be a really beautiful thing. You don't have to be alone. And I appreciate things like this because I don't have to be alone either. So B, on singing. B's friends have noted that B tends to sing to yourself without realizing it when you're really happy or humming to yourself. Oh, that's amazing. Who was it? One day I remember seeing someone, that's one of the things I love several times in my life. There's characters in the world who, and I don't know whether they realize it or not, but tend to sing out loud, just walking down the street. And I adore that. I adore seeing people do that. A lot of people may look at them strangely, but for me, wow. What a way of owning your space and strutting your stuff on the stage of life, I guess. Let's see what we got here. And again, I've started a project midway through or towards the end of today's live stream. Again, couldn't help it. So I don't know if I will complete this poem. Let's see if I can get one mini poem done for the first page. I'd like to use this journal as a little cutout poetry booklet. And that way, every new day I can make a new poem, a new page, poem, the page. Oh. B, thank you. It feels like the point of the studio is that we don't have to be alone. I think that's a huge piece of the Art Hive movement, that you can be alone with others if you like. And if you don't want to be alone, there are people you can reach out to and connect with. And I think virtual spaces like this achieve the same thing. Virtual communities can absolutely provide that kind of connection for people, as long as we're investing in it and being careful, being mindful of taking care of ourselves along the way. Because we don't always get the same information that we might if we were in the same space as another human being. Oh, and Annie's saying, so Annie's, folks who are out there, if you can help me remember, I'm going to Google this after, but as long as the theme of singing reminds me of the old Sesame Street piece, Sing. I don't remember that, but I am definitely going to look it up. Maybe I'll post it. On the Facebook page. Yeah. And Shelley, I hear you. The anxiety steps in and it's hard. It's the relationship we might have with those things in ourselves, whether it's anxiety or depression. There are many, there are a lot of different things that can sometimes prevent us from living our best lives or having being able to move as freely, think as freely as we like. Anxiety is definitely one of those things. When it steps in, it's really hard. It's hard to talk back to it sometimes. It's hard to challenge it. It's hard to move through it or alongside of it to something that you want. So I think that's what you mean when you talk about that pushing back against it. Because if you never pushed back against it, maybe you'd always be captured by the anxiety, stuck within that anxiety. But you're showing, just by being here and being part of this community, this is another way you're showing that you're learning how to talk back to that anxiety, how to, strengthen your relationship with it. I don't know. Manage it a little bit more effectively so that it doesn't dominate everything. Might always play a small part, might always play a large part, But if you can have a relationship with it where you can say, no, not right now, or remember to take those moments where you need to talk. Well, talking back can happen internally as well as externally, right? So much here. Yeah, there's so much here, right? But the fact that you're here, that you are here, that you're chatting so freely with people, that you're creating, that you're making your mark, and it seems that you are recognizing that your life has great value. As I hope everyone who's here can recognize for themselves. That's one thing that art can give us, is that ability to honor the things within ourselves that are, we feel are worth honoring, to put aside the things that are difficult. Oh, Annie, thank you for sharing the link. Brilliant. That's one of the things I love about art, that it can begin those conversations. Art and the processes of creativity can help us push back against the things or challenge the things that we may not want to dominate our lives. I think being very gentle with yourself along the way on that journey is really important too, if you don't mind me saying. Because I imagine that you've learned so much about yourself along the way. We all do. It's not as easy as flipping a switch. The difficulties that present themselves to us in life, or that come upon us, are, it's not easy. I wish they weren't there. But I adore witnessing people moving through that or managing it along the way, and seeing all the creative ways they encounter what causes them, what is causing that great difficulty for them, and how creative they get in addressing it. I might just be rambling right now. I think I am. So I apologize, folks. I suppose if I was to simplify everything that I just said and sort of spread it out so that it could apply to everyone, I'd like to take a moment to honor everyone who has struggled, or perhaps who is struggling, whether they're big struggles or small struggles, really stubborn struggles, or annoying ones that have just popped up and will be gone today, by the end of today. I want to honor everyone who's taking the time to dialogue with that, to figure out ways that you can move through it to something better for yourself, recognizing that those things don't define who you are. They can inform how you move through the day. They might certainly make things a little more interesting in your life from time to time, but they are not you. They do not define who you are. And by being here, by being a part of this creative conversation, whether you're making yourself visible in the chat, or you're just listening at home, or wherever you might be, that is an extraordinary step. It truly is an extraordinary thing that you're doing for yourself. And I appreciate it so much. I honor that. And I want you to know that wherever you are, even if you are living on your own, that you are not alone. And that it's always okay to ask for help. It's always okay to reach out to someone else. Many different people, if you want. To say, I need something. Or I want something. Maybe you can help me with that. Can you help me with that? Suppose we are in this together in a very strange way. And the more we learn about one another, the better. And the only way we learn about one another is through what we choose to share with others, what we feel comfortable sharing with others. Because I can't read people's minds, folks. I don't know if there's anyone out there that can, but speaking for myself, I can't. So we rely on these kind of conversations to help us feel stronger, to help us feel safe, to help us feel seen and heard and alive and present in our own lives. Boy, I'm getting ranty, folks. Yeah. The Thank you, everyone, for such an excellent and kind of deep, complex conversation today. Some days things are really light, and some days they're not. And I feel like this one was not dark, but deep. So thank you for that. So shall I end today or wrap up today with kind of organizing this poem? Let's see what I can do. Okay, let's see. Working with what I have here on the page. Well, that one too. Here comes the song to finish up. Oh, oh. I love cut up poetry, guys. Maybe I'll do another episode about it or with it. Episode? Is that what these are? Episodes? Okay, yeah, that's what I need. Okay, yeah, that's what I need. I have kind of like an action theme going on right now. It's like I'm trying to finish off. Let's see. Oh, that's a good one. Where did it go? I think I just blew away a very important part of my poem, guys. Okay, and what time is it? 3:27. I've got a couple of minutes to finish this. Let's see. Let's see, guys. Where did it go? Oh. I'm also offering you sound effects, everyone. Okay. Okay, here we go. Okay. I don't know. We need to record the action song. I think I might remember it. Oh, famous last words. Bow, bow, bow. Someone out there give me a drum solo or a guitar solo. I think a guitar solo would be good here. K. Oh, don't knock the poem. Oh no. Okay. Does this make sense? Probably not. All right, folks, for the end, for today, let's say my cut up poem, as is right now, missing a few things. Are we ready? For those who are still here, thank you for being here. For the sake of indulging in those bold and original symptoms of such a condition, standing in a certain state of information, in possession of the prize, the invaluable, the under alone, courage, we explore our way to it. Cut up poetry, folks. Cut up poetry. I love it. Okay, challenge to any of the community members out there. If anyone out there has these skills or abilities and you would like to take my strange singing and create a theme song to it, an 80s, yeah, I think B's right, like an 80s theme song, electric drums, guitar, lots of synth, go for it. I invite you, I gently challenge you to bring that to the table for next week. Send it to me. I would so love to hear it. Feel free to sample my do-do-do-do-do-do's. But for now, again, I want to thank everyone for being here. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for your awesomeness. Thank you, everyone, for being a part of this pop-up art hive today. So enjoyable. Please feel free to share the work that you've done. If you've created any work today that you feel like sharing, feel free to share it in the comment section below, or if there's another post that we make, for, like if B makes another post after this, feel free to throw it in there. And let's have a little mini virtual art gallery for the work our community is making. And thank you for being a part of our community. It really, really means a lot. So yeah, 3:33. I'll sign off now and I'll stick these words down before I blow them away again. Thanks for being here. And until we can connect and create again with one another in person, I really, really look forward to creating and connecting with you again online. Love you guys. Take care of yourselves and hopefully see you soon. Bye.